a silent killer, relentless, ruthless, marching through our streets, stealing breath, stopping hearts, breaking spirits, numbing pain only to multiply it. An invisible force, malicious, merciless, taking our loved ones one by one, turning vibrant lives into fading echoes. How do we fight this silent killer when its poison lingers everywhere in the land? 47,000 Canadians have now died of fentanyl overdoses. This is more than died fighting for Canada in the Second World War. Never before seen homeless camps and drug dens overtake once beautiful communities where contorted bodies lie half dead on filthy sidewalks in scenes resembling third world squalor. The government tranquilizes our people with an unsafe supply of tax-funded narcotics, from which those same troubled souls then graduate to even more dangerous drugs. Drugs like fentanyl, which are 100 times more potent than heroin, now abound in our streets. We have seen a 200% annual increase in overdose deaths in the last 8 years, with the worst death counts massing in British Columbia, where the policies of soft sentences, non-enforcement, taxpayer-funded drug distribution have all been most enthusiastically embraced. We were told that these policies were based on science and data, yet all the science and data has proven these policies lethal and have proven the counterfactual, that is to say, the places that have done the opposite, to be far more secure and safe. Not only is this killer ravaging our streets, but it is now spilling over our borders. In November of 2024, this year, the RCMP busted Canada's largest ever drug superlab, which had 54 kilograms of fentanyl, almost triple what the U.S. Border Patrol seized crossing the border in 2024. This lab contained enough fent and precursor chemicals to produce more than 95.5 million potentially lethal doses of fentanyl. It also seized 89 firearms, which included 45 handguns, 21 AR-style rifles, and submachine guns, many of which were loaded and ready for use. All of these guns easier for criminals and drug kingpins to get than ever before, not in spite of, but because of the policies of this NDP Liberal government. Small explosive devices, large amounts of ammunition, firearm silencers, high-capacity magazines, body armor, and $500,000 in cold, hard cash were all part of the drug bust. The RCMP said, quote, the lab was believed to be behind the production and distribution of, quote, unprecedented quantities of fentanyl and methamphetamines. In October 2024, the RCMP seized 33 tons, that's to say 66,138 pounds, of chemical precursors used to make the same deadly drugs. The RCMP says Canada is now a producer and exporter of fentanyl and other synthetic opioids. In other words, we, despite our massive consumption of these deadly drugs, we actually produce even more than we consume and sell the surplus abroad. CSIS identifies that more than 350 organized crime groups are actively involved in domestic illegal fentanyl marketing. CSIS says the precursor chemicals are largely sourced from China. 80% of chemicals used in fentanyl production are actually legal and unregulated in Canada. They can be procured here and imported from China. And even if they weren't legal, the head of the border guards recently said that 99% of our incoming shipping containers go completely uninspected. So it wouldn't even matter if they were banned, because this government would have no way of stopping them from coming in. 84% of organized crime groups are involved in some aspect of the illicit drug trade, primarily in distribution. Street gangs are involved in fentanyl trade, and that has street gang involvement in that trade has more than doubled in 5 years. The U.S. Customs and Border Patrol seizure of fentanyl doses from Canada has gone from 239 kilograms to 839 kilograms. More than 3 times as much fentanyl was caught in 2023 than in 2024. The Customs and Border Patrol seizures of raw fentanyl was 14 pounds in 2022 and has risen to 43 pounds. That, by the way, might not sound like a lot, but 43 pounds of fentanyl is enough to kill almost 10 million people, to illustrate the deadly nature of this poison. And what has this government done in this regard? First of all, they passed C-5 to reduce penalties for the murderers who produce and market these drugs. And I call them murderers. You might say, how do I know that those producing these drugs have committed murder? The answer is because if you produce fentanyl on a large scale, you know with statistical certainty that you will kill people. Right. There is no doubt that on a statistical basis, if you are selling 2,000 or 3,000 hits of fentanyl, someone will die as a result of your actions, and you know it. And this government has allowed these murderers to go out of jail, back onto the streets, legally import the ingredients that go into this deadly poison, whereby it can be sold to people who are hopelessly addictive and have no way of getting off the drugs. Right. Simultaneously to that, the government has found millions of dollars to subsidize the distribution of synthetic opioids that are used supposedly to, quote, reduce harm. And as my colleague from Kildonan and St. Paul will point out, as I split my time with her, there is no doubt that the people are graduating from and using the proceeds of these tax-funded opioids to fund the fentanyl trade. While we have had wild inflation in almost every product that is on market in Canada, one thing that has become vastly cheaper is synthetic opioids like the ones the government funds. And those, because they have gone down, not because they're cheaper, but because the greatest part of the price is paid through taxpayer-funded subsidies, supposedly to reduce the harm. And now we know that it has done precisely the opposite. And it not only murders our people, but now threatens our livelihoods as our American friends now demand swift action to secure the borders to protect their people against the recklessness of this government. And that is why common sense conservatives are making proposals to stop the drugs. We call for the repeal of C-5, the law that allows these drug kingpins to go free, to reinstate longer drug sentences for the kingpins, ban the importation of fentanyl precursors, buy high-powered scanners and put more boots on the ground at our ports to stop fentanyl, and reinforce that we have a strong border like we did 9 years ago. And it shouldn't have taken Donald Trump to make this point.
That's right.
Our government should have been thinking about our people.
Yes.
It's not because of another president that we should take these actions. It's because we believe that not one more mother should bury her face in her hands out of the heartbreak of losing a child. So we must take the swift actions to secure our borders, to lock up the drug murderers, to clear our streets of these toxins and poisons, invest in treatment and recovery, to bring our loved ones home drug-free and heal our nation. Thank you.